All right, and we are going. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining me for our May listening club. We listened to Demon Days by Gorillaz, which is an album that I am particularly fond of, and I can't wait to hear your guys' take on it. But before we get started with that discussion, let me do my normal spiel. This is our music listening club. We actually have another monthly club, and that is our movie club. We will be having that discussion in a couple of days here, and they will get uploaded to the YouTube at the same time. So if you're watching this after the fact, you'll be able to see both of those at the same time. And you can comment on them and let us know your thoughts on the discussion and join in that way. And we try to keep updated with all of those comments. So you can join the discussion that way. If you'd like to join us for our next discussions, you can always join over in our Facebook group, which I have put up on the screen. I announce our new monthly picks at the start of every month. So just let me or Beckett know if you'd like to join us, and we'll join you onto the call. We only let about 4 or 5 people onto these calls just to keep things manageable. So let me know if you're interested in the next picks, and you can join the discussion live. And that's not just all we do. Here at Dragonfly Arts, we're a community of creatives that talk about creative problems and problem solving and just the lifestyle that comes with being a working creative or a hobbyist creative. Um, we actually do meetups if you're in the Los Angeles area, as well as a bunch of other fun things. So join us over on our Facebook if you'd like to find out more about any of that. And if you like us and you like what we do have a Patreon. You can support us for as little as $2 a month. There is nothing behind the paywall at the moment. Everything we offer is free to our Facebook group. So it really just helps us maintain this and keep it going and keep these discussions and all of the things that we have going on going. So we appreciate any help. And with that, let's talk about Gorillaz. So this is a
Kitty.
special guest star.
Yes.
So this is a 2005 album. This is the second studio album by Gorillaz, which is actually a virtual band. It is really just 2 people, Damien Albarn and Jamie Hewlett. Damien Albarn being the musician and Jamie Hewlett being the artist on it. They do a lot of really, really cool things. There is so much lore that goes into this. When I am not joking when I say I one time watched a 3-hour-long video that was just explaining the lore of Gorillaz, and I remember none of it. So
Yeah, that is so interesting. I know nothing about Gorillaz. I just love this album. But yeah, I need to do a deep dive now, it seems.
yeah, it's a really interesting concept. It's 4 fictional members who are up on the screen. Let me pull up a different image of them. 2D, Murdoch, Noodle, and Russell Hobbs. But yeah, they don't exist. And so all of their shows are kind of this weird mixed media thing going on, and they do a lot of really cool things. And yeah, a lot of lore in their music videos. Had you guys listened to this album before?
Oh yeah.
I had listened to the tracks. We played, I want to say in the sort of 2008, 2009 time period, a lot of my students wanted to play Feel Good. And that meant we did it at recitals. And I can't imagine how we did that at recitals because there was a bunch of us music teachers. But that was like a big deal for a while, was everybody wanted to learn to do Feel Good just because it was a fun song, not because the drum part was whatever. But I remember being the one who sang the chorus and with the little guitar part, the little interlude where Damon's just singing, not the
Mm-hmm.
rap. But the other thing was we had some 6, 8-year-old drummers, and they just loved the ha 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 De La Soul thing, and they just walked around like doing that and says, "We can play that song. Let's do it." So it was through that, and then I always really loved Damon Albarn because he's kind of a David Bowie-esque character going from project to project, and I discovered a music, what was it? Festival in Africa that he would go and hang out at, and I was just learning about cool stuff by just kind of following his career. There was a band called Tenara Wen that was discovered at that festival. But anyway, I really like him. I like Blur, and so that's more of what's going on. And I think that anyway, he's awesome. But I hadn't listened to a whole lot of stuff on this album unless my students brought it in.
Did you happen to listen to any of their other work?
That's where I get confused. Yes, which one I don't know. Because
they're still producing like music pretty regularly. They're still a pretty popular band.
Yeah, and they're huge. And one of the things I just learned this recently, one of my favorite music podcasts is the Rock on Tours, and he's one of the few people that I don't think they play stadiums in the United States, but they play stadiums in Europe, both with your band Blur, and also with your solo band Gorillaz. So yeah, they're playing like Wembley Stadium in the UK, and I don't think they're playing stadiums here, but
they're playing the Kia Forum in October in Inglewood,
right?
Yeah,
the Gorillaz, not Blur, right?
The Gorillaz, yeah.
Yeah, and then Blur have a song that just for a while there was being played at every European football match, and so yeah, he's completely awesome, but more as just sort of like, this is how to be an artist, and the whole idea of the David Bowie thing and every album is different is not dead. At least the 2000s, the odds version of that.
Yeah. The only other album of theirs I've listened to is Gorillaz, the self-titled one.
Yeah. I've listened to quite a few of their stuff, but not like all the way through.
I listened to this album Into the Ground. I think I broke the CD. I listened to it that much back in the day.
That takes some doing. Broke the CD.
Yeah.
Wow. Congratulations.
So I'm going to go ask the question I always ask, even though I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this one. And that is, what's your favorite song on the album?
I mean, you can't go wrong with Feel Good Inc., but I love Dare. I think that's my favorite one.
Yeah, that was in my top 3. I was surprised by that one, because I don't think Damon doesn't sing or rap on that song, does he?
No.
They're like background vocals, but I'm not sure who sings them.
Oh, yeah. I really was surprised I like Dare so much, because if it's him singing or somebody I recognize rapping like De La Soul, it's like, okay, cool. But I like Dare. I also really like Demon Days. But the thing about this album for me, and of course Feel Good, because there's nothing like an 8-year-old turning you on to like a band and you actually liking it. It was just like the coolest thing. Anyway, but I think this is, and I don't know if it's true of all their albums because I've only really listened to this one, the album's kind of a vibe album, right? It's like certain albums, they're a vibe, right? And it's got this amazing vibe, but you don't go through and this is an amazing song and that's an amazing song, right? And then other albums are like song albums. So like the Beatles would be like, either Rubber Soul or a Revolver, or like song albums, all these great songs. And then Sgt. Pepper's kind of a vibe album where if you really analyze it, there's not that many great songs on it. And the greatest song on there isn't even like a song. It's just song bits stitched together. But it's got a vibe, even though the vibe only lasts for the first 2 songs and then is repeated later before the end. And so I think it's got like this amazing vibe, and it's consistent enough that you don't feel like you've left the world of the vibe at any point, but it's also adventurous enough that it's sort of like going places that you didn't expect. Like Demon
I
Days
always
is one of my favorites, and it's just like, wow, that's almost a straight gospel. Go ahead, sorry.
So different, yeah.
yeah. For me, listening to their albums always kind of feels like a soundtrack in a way,
Well,
which in a
exactly.
sense
It's
it
very,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Intro to me, one of the first things that I thought of when I heard intro, and I swear I'm not making this up, is Revolution Number 9 by the Beatles on the White Album, which is like the musique concrète, I think you pronounce it, and it was John and Yoko and George just splicing tape together, right? And it's that was just like very cinematic to me and sort of setting the vibe. And I really thought that was cool, even though I have no idea where this is going. Is this even a song? It was just, yeah.
So I watched our movie club movie today because I had a lot of designs to catch up on, but like those are kind of brainless. So even though it was in a different language, I could still kind of follow along and stuff. And I'd seen the movie before anyway. But anyway, so while I was listening to this album again before joining this call, I pictured this as a soundtrack to that movie. Like
Interesting.
it kind of goes with that vibe a little
It
bit.
does.
What's the era? What era is that movie? When was that made?
2000. It was around the same
Yeah,
time.
Yes,
before-
around the same time.
Oh, was it
2002.
this? I thought it was older. That is really
No,
cool.
it takes place in like 60s and 70s, but it was made in 02, I think.
Yeah, it was made in 02.
What city in Brazil is it based on? Or
Rio de Janeiro.
in Rio?
Yeah.
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 I wanted to I picked this album specifically because of Feel Good Inked, and I was between this and Gorillaz. But I decided to go with this one mainly because I also really like the obvious juxtaposition that I often find in Gorillaz songs. They're very conflicting in their writing, and just I feel like there's always like two different things going on a lot. And I think that's very, very obvious on this album specifically.
So I have a question. This is a technical question. So Jamie Hewlett is the other person, right?
Yes,
But he's a visual artist,
I believe so. Yes,
but he's credited with all the songs. So he's writing songs.
he's writing songs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I didn't realize that it was just two people, which kind of makes sense. God, when you see them live, there's just like, how do they, make any money on their tours? There's so many people on stage, but yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen them do a couple of things. Like I've seen them do it as like an actual like animated feature almost. And I've seen them do it with just a ton of people on stage.
Oh, okay. You
I
mean an animated feature with only like four or five musicians, like very few musicians?
like you don't really see the musicians.
Oh, they're like in the pit. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. So it's more about watching the screen. It's watching the Gorillaz
Mhm.
perform as opposed to.
And that's what they did on their first tour, didn't they? That's kind of how I remember what
That's how
they were-
I remember them, and I remember they did a bunch of they did a lot of tours that were like that. I think it depends on the album. I think it also depends on the venue and
Yeah,
the
because I
location.
watched a show at the I can't even think of the name. A very famous club in Harlem in New York. For this album, it was promoted as Demon Days Live, and it was like Parliament Funkadelic. There was like 30 people on stage. So I just thought that whole tour was like that, but I could be wrong. And you could be right. There could be multiple tours. There could be the audio video extravaganza part of the tour, and then this other part of the tour where it's not so much.
And talking about like the Jamie Hewlett on the writing, it could also be that he gets the writing credits for like royalty.
Yeah,
because
for
otherwise
publishing.
he wouldn't get it. That could also be the case with this. He doesn't really list himself as a musician or a writer in any sense, but I imagine there is this correlation between the two since it is like an art project in and of itself.
Well, yeah, that's brilliant because that is one heck of a way to keep a together. The only bands I know that have done that is U2 and REM, where the publishing is always all four of them, right?
Yeah.
No matter who did what. And in U2, the songwriting is very bifurcated. It's two guys, and 75% of it is one guy. So the other guys in the band are getting publishing, but there are things asked of them that don't have to do with songwriting, that they have responsibility for. One has to do with management, one has to do with tour support and stuff. But it's a really good way to keep a band together. Otherwise, the guys writing the songs make all the money, and everybody's paid like serfs.
Yeah,
That's why you also end up with like a lot of pop stars who you'll have like a song that's just like 4 repeating words and it will have like 15 writers on it.
It's also a good way to avoid financial disputes.
Yeah. It's a very common
I'm
thing.
curious about what you had said earlier, Rebecca, as far as the juxtaposition. Are you talking tonally or
Tonally, meaning wise?
Because I'm curious now that I need to go, and I find myself listening to this album for the first time being like, oh, I wonder what the stories are of these songs, because I've never really paid attention to the words. Like, I know the words to most of them, but I don't put them to get, like, it's like I know them to sing along, but I don't know what the story of the song is. Like, I don't know how they go together. So
this
like,
album
look it
is
up.
also really interesting to me because it was released in 2005, which is not necessarily before social media, but before social media really took over. And it kind of is internet age anxiety.
Yeah, now I want to go like look up all the lyrics.
But even like from a musical sense, like a lot of the chorus and the verses oftentimes are very, very different, especially like Feel Good Inc. being a common one. It has like a breakdown almost as its chorus. And it has this kind of manic energy mix like that De La Soul brings into it, like mixed with like the Gorillaz having like this more calming effect.
Yeah, so it's kind of like more than just mixing rap with song-driven genres, right? Which are kind of two different things. It's also, yeah, at a granular level, the verses with De La Soul and that dreamy chorus or dreamy bridge, whatever it is, with Damon singing are like, they're like, the vibe is totally different. It's like a scene change in a movie.
And I find that a lot of the songs do that. I think Dare is the standout of it because it doesn't really do that. It kind of just feels like a dance anthem in the middle of the album.
Mm-hmm.
Or like this weird form of escapism from the rest of the cynicism that is the rest of the album. And then you follow up like Dare with like Fire Coming Out of Monkey's Head, which is just about exploitation. Like,
yeah.
And it's more of a story than a song.
Yeah.
I like that they have their pets in the photo.
The pets look like photoshopped in.
Yeah, I'm sure they were not together in the same place at the same time. These types of animals don't photograph well in like photography sessions.
Oh, so I just kind of assumed they're not their pets, but maybe you're right.
Oh, well, maybe they're not. I don't know.
Yeah, I also don't know.
That's pretty funny.
I didn't even notice there were animals in it when I put it in.
There's
Yeah,
rabbits.
I actually got a photo session with my cats. It was like pulling teeth.
I take photos of rabbits regularly for social media, and I am a professional photographer, and you would not guess it based on any of these images.
Animals notoriously, especially these two, they don't sit still.
Well, at least not the way you want them. Twitchy.
Yeah.
So I do think it's interesting that the album is called Demon Days, which is the last album or the last song on the album. And a lot of times when it's like based on that, it's like, is that what's holding the album together? And if so, like what is the meaning?
Well, I mean, if it kind of if it's along the theme of what you had mentioned about like, social media or internet anxiety in general, then that's it's kind of on the nose. Make a choice.
Yeah, I have nothing to add to that. When I'm talking about vibe, I'm just talking about like emotion and the music, you know? And so I just think it's got like enough similarities track to track that it hangs together, but not so much that it starts getting boring and every track starts sounding the same. So when I'm talking about it's got a vibe, I just mean literally like, you know, lizard brain.
It's
I
cohesive.
yeah.
I feel like there's songs on this album that just exist to thread together the song before it and the song after it.
Oh, do you? Yeah, I didn't get that sense, but yeah.
Not in the sense of that's their only purpose for existing, but there are songs on this album that I don't think about often, but they still feel like I'm going from point A to point B. Like they are a song I'm passing through on my way to get to the next song in a way that I'm going to remember.
Or that an effort was made for some type of cohesion, right?
Right.
And but it again, you know, there's ways to do that that are elegant and beautiful, and there's ways to do that that are really crass. And whatever they did, oh my God, Bill Murray is on the bookcase. Whatever they did, it's very elegant. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I feel like I got to change the image or else we're just going to keep
Sorry, squirrel,
It's a very interesting image.
squirrel. Yeah, but yeah, and part of it is just the, I mean, what you think of as the Gorillaz, how do you say template, which is the verse. Well, I mean, even the Police had a template, but like, you know, the verse is kind of the rappy bit, and then the chorus you get a little sing-songy melody bit, right? And that happens often enough where that also feels like a thread, you know, and that happens with different emotional contexts, for lack of a better term. And it's fresh every time you hear it, as opposed to, oh, we're doing feel gooding again. This is feel gooding dot two, you know, version 2.
Yeah, absolutely. Um,
And then, you know,
and
the other thing I wanted to mention is, and I should have mentioned it earlier when I was talking about the intro and Revolution Number 9, is that this album just sounds friggin' fun to make. Like, it just sounds like with Danger Mouse and these two guys, it would have been a blast, right? And that was the one thing, like, for decades, I never listened to Revolution Number 9, and when I understood how it was put together and it was just John and Yoko and George sitting on the floor putting tape splices together, it just sounds so fun, right? And so that if because it feels so fun to do, therefore it has a value to it where you're think at least I'm thinking they're kind of doing stuff that they really like, and they're not doing anything to get things on the chart or on, you know, whatever was MySpace still happening back then. They're not trying to do things to get on the chart. They're doing things because they like them, right? And it's infectious that way. And you know, Feel Good Inc. might be the one of the better examples of it, but all the tunes kind of have that where you just go, man, this must have been just a blast to put together. And it doesn't feel labored. I'm sure there's parts of it that are way more labored than I'm imagining it, but it just sounds like not overly, you know, they're not overthinking stuff, and it just sounds like they're having fun.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. So one of my favorite Radiohead albums is apparently was a complete nightmare to be around and to be making. So it's hard to tell from the outside.
I mean, I think the fact that the Gorillaz is still making music and still producing albums like pretty, I want to say pretty regularly. I feel like there's actually not that many. It's just like consistently every like few years.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it seem like, and they generally keep the same group around for all of it. They bring in new people, and sometimes things get rearranged, but it kind of feels like it does feel like they're having fun putting this together.
Yeah,
Like they're having fun with the project.
Well, if they're still going, I would hope so.
wow. I mean, if you look at their wiki page on the discography, they've got video albums, they've got remix albums, they've got they have 3 compilation albums. I had no idea. They have a live album. Oh, that thing I saw live from the Apollo Theater was their live album. But it wasn't released until last year, even though it was, I think, from 2008, something like that. But I'm trying to look at the dates of their most recent album. They got a
Well,
lot
their
out.
most recent album was released on the 27th of February.
Oh, there it is. Yeah, The Mountain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like, that's pretty busy.
Yeah,
Like,
it
even if
seems
that
like
was your
it's
only project, that's a lot. There's a 7-year gap at one point,
mhm.
right? But that's a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
They
And he's got another
are
band.
cranking them out. Like I said, a lot of lore that goes into this band.
Yeah.
But I like
Although,
this album and I like Gorillaz a lot. I also like Cracker Island. I am less of a fan of Plastic Beach, which is the one that came out after this. It felt a little bit heavier and less fun to listen to.
mm,
But yeah, consistently coming out with things, always seeing it show up on YouTube. The art style has changed.
yeah, and that's also interesting that I don't know how much art is produced by his partner for each album project outside of the promotional videos and the album covers, but being the kind of artist that he is, I'm thinking he might be getting as much inspiration from that sort of keeps things fresh for him, and is another reason why his partner is on all the publishing credits.
Mm-hmm.
But can you speak to that? Because I honestly can't. Like, how, I mean, they have video albums, so like they care about the art aspect of it. I mean, they have multiple video albums. How many did I say they had? They had 3 or 4. That's a lot. Who even does
Yeah.
video albums anymore?
Well, I also think that he has a team working with him on it. I don't think it's just him. I know that for some of the new stuff, they have different animators that are working on it, which is part of the reason why their art style differs. But Jamie Hewlett does comic books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he is probably like, yeah, he does like Tank Girl.
Oh, I love Tank Girl.
Yeah. So he was one of the creators of that. And then other than that, he works on like a lot of comic book art, like specifically, but it seems like Tank Girl is probably his biggest. And then he does his own art.
Is his most well-known work.
His most like consistent, like he's the creator of that. Other than that, it seems like he does like other things for other comics that are like ongoing things.
Yeah. So since the visual is such an important part of it, and it's kind of built into the band because the artist is on all the publishing, I get the sense, and I'm just guessing, that there's a symbiotic kind of inspiration for each other where, Damon with the music will see something like this and be inspired to write something, or he'll have a theme and that'll inspire Jamie to draw something, and I got to think, especially if, and Jamie's still in the band, right? So if he's stuck around for this long, he must be getting something out of it, right? If he's just like doing cover art for Damon's albums, that's sort of like, and the videos, that's only so interesting, and after a while we'll get old. So I think there's got to be some sort of real cool creative give and take where Damon writes different songs when he's working with Jamie and dealing with the the visuals he's getting, and Jamie might draw different kinds of things.
And this
Um,
isn't their only project that they work on together. I just learned in
yeah.
2007 they did a stage adaptation of Monkey Journey to the West that
Is that
they
one of their
worked on
songs?
together. No, that's a stage adaptation of a 16th century novel
Whoa,
that was created by a Chinese actor.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
it's been adapted, and I've seen it in like anime form.
Yeah, it's a very popular story, but in 2007 they worked together along with a Chinese actor to bring a stage play together, which I am now interested in.
Wow, where was it put on in London?
It was put on, it seems, Manchester and London.
Isn't it roughly telling the story of the Buddha or something?
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I think I had heard that. I might be wrong though.
It is a very old work of Chinese that I don't know super well, but I do know that it's constantly retold. Maybe we'll read it at some point for our book club.
That'd be interesting.
There you go. And when you said anime, so there's animated versions of it. Is there like
There are
there's
live action movies too. Yeah.
there's live action movies too?
Oh yeah.
Graphic novels, like in the style of,
Probably.
I'm
Yeah.
sure.
that'd be cool. That's one of my best ways to take in Shakespeare is to watch the
Find a
graphic.
graphic novel.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And he's super easy to find, but
That does sound interesting.
yeah.
Well,
we've got great plots. It's just like the language is kind of a barrier.
so I don't actually have a lot more else to talk about with this album. Was there anything specific that people wanted to talk about with this album?
I mean, I love the blend of like kind of funk and rap and soul, and just it's a very interesting, like when I think of Gorillaz, it's kind of its own genre.
Yeah.
There's nothing
Did he
really
do
else
that?
like it.
Did he do that project, The Good, the Bad, and the Queen, with the guy from Fela Kuti's band and the guy from The Clash?
Yes.
Yeah, that seems like something adjacent with rock stars, right? Tony Allen on drums, who's like a rock star African drummer, and was it Mick Jones from The Clash? Or was
I
it?
don't know. It was just on the list when I was going through his work.
Yeah. Well, and and I would take it beyond that. It's not just the music genres; it's the sort of the blending of music and visual art that I think is really, really cool. And I don't think the songs would sound the same without the impact of or I think
Have you watched,
that's affecting the music.
have you watched any of the music videos, Miguel?
I watched the ones on this album.
I think there's only the 2 on the album.
Mm-hmm.
But they also have
Well,
some like short films that are pretty good too.
yeah. But I was mostly listening. I wasn't really watching much.
Mm-hmm.
And it was cool. But I think there's something to be learned there from. I mean, we always talk in the Saturday chats about, if you're dealing with writer's block, get outside of your lane, get outside of your genre. And if you're a musician, go to to a museum. If you're, if you make sculptures, go see a rap group, And I think this is an example, and I'm just guessing, but I think this is an example of that's like an ongoing project, as opposed to taking a moment and getting rid of your writer's block. It's sort of like it's got its own built-in getting rid of your block because they're both in two different disciplines,
And also just the sheer number of genres that they mix together. And I was going to ask if this album felt chaotic or cohesive to you, but I generally got the thing that it felt cohesive. This album feels like somebody having a manic episode and somebody else trying to calm them down.
Well, I think it can be both. The chaos can be a thematic element,
Yeah.
right? But it's, it could also get in the way, right? And I don't think it gets in the way at all.
I think that the comparison of it to a soundtrack is very apt because, I mean, when you're thinking of like the plot line of a film, it's very like up and down. There's peaks and valleys. The story evolves over the course of the film. And this album is interesting in that it does feel kind of chaotic and jumbled, but it's also cohesive. So it's like it all goes together, but all the songs kind of have a different sound. So it kind of works that way.
Yeah. And I do think there's what is the word for that when, I guess it's cinematic. If you look at it just as a musician, it's kind of cinematic. I don't know as a visual artist how you would look at this as, other than the obvious, anime kind of stuff. But I would really be interested to have somebody who lives in that world, say somebody on this call, comment on that. Like, if this is from a music standpoint, if this is cinematic, what would you call it from a visual standpoint?
I would think,
or is it the same?
I would be very interested to see like a fully animated film of this entire album. That doesn't exist right now. So
They have
I'm not
video
sure.
albums, so let me look at the video albums. But
that would be really cool to see this whole album put to animation.
Have you seen their video albums, Rebecca?
I've seen a couple of them, but not recently.
Oh, well, so the Demon Days is called the video album, but that I think is just a performance at the Apollo.
Yeah.
There's phase 1, Celebrity Takedown, phase 2, Slow Boat to Hades. There you go. And Bananas with a Z. So
you can find a lot of their stuff on YouTube, and I would highly suggest looking it up. I'll see if I can find any of the longer form stuff. I knew they just came out with one for The Mountain, their most recent album I saw earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
But it is a fascinating project, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. I really want to go back into the lore.
Yeah, now, like I said, I need to do a deep dive. I bet there's an iceberg video on YouTube that I could watch.
I'll see if I can find the one that I found before.
Great.
Yeah. And I think, if we compare and contrast, because I think most music people would think of him as the guy from Blur, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's done more work with these guys than Blur over the course of his career. And I think the reason for that might be just that it's two people, right? And they're not occupying the same mindset of, like Blur is like 4 musicians, right? And well, they got a fair amount of albums. They did one in 2023. So, but not since 2015 before that. I think, oh God, I forget what context I was saying this in. I think it's a really important part of Damon's artistic life. And I think it's more important than Blur because Blur was first, and then Blur has a disadvantage of, you're, being in a band is like being in a marriage without the sex, right? And that's really, really like difficult. And I wonder, and I suspect that he designed this just so he could have an outlet that wasn't as big of a pain in the ass as keeping a band together.
And I wonder if he also devised it so that he wouldn't be the forefront of it, which didn't really work out for him. But
which it didn't really work out?
Yeah, I mean, we all know that
when it started, it was supposed to be anonymous, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, good luck with that. But I do think the way he set it up, it gets around all those problems with bands kind of elegantly. And they have released more stuff than Blur has.
It's fair. I want to know how far into the future they think about things. Like, do they have the plot line for like the next 3 albums planned out? I know that they plan to have a feature film on Netflix, but the idea got scrapped.
Oh,
So
well,
I wonder if they're going to like work on that or move forward to that. I'm really excited to see what they come up for. I'm really excited that they're still making stuff. I'm
Well,
still excited that they're building up on this.
one of my resolutions for this year, after seeing Green Day last year, was to go to more concerts. And while we're on this call, I just bought my ticket to go see Gorillaz.
All right. Yeah, let me know how it is.
I will.
Go see Gorillaz. Where are they playing?
Yeah.
At
Inglewood.
the Kia Forum.
Oh, that
At-
show.
Yeah,
In
at the end of
October.
October.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
Should be fun. I'll let you guys know how everything is put together and staged and stuff.
Yeah, please do. All right, before we ended the call for the night, did anyone have any final thoughts?
I did think that, I'm trying to remember what things were like in the context of Gorillaz when it started. And I think it was noted for how they were blending genres, right? Because I think to that point, the rap world and the rock world didn't spend a lot of time together, right? And that's changed a lot. And maybe it was already changing when this started. This is where I'm kind of like, am I thinking 90s had more than aughts had? But I think for a lot of people on the rock side of the rock and rap divide, this was a wonderful entree to rap kind of elements, because, Damon's on it. And then there's a song, right? And everybody likes the hook. And I think it's not only sort of part of their, how do you say, how they operate, their MO. I think for a certain audience, they did a lot to bring rap kind of to the masses, right? Because you look at like, the stadiums they're playing and the big festivals they're doing, they're not rap festivals, right? They're like, Nebworth and Glastonbury, and they're playing at the Wembley, stadium, right? So it's not places where rap acts will sell out or even play, And so I think, and I could be wrong, I think there's been a real big influence on the way they brought those two worlds together.
So briefly reading up on the history and the creation of Gorillaz, it was always meant to be kind of this collaboration and constant reimagining of genre. They got the idea because they were watching MTV, and Hewlett said, if you watch MTV for too long, it's a bit like hell. There's no substance there. So we got the idea for a virtual band, something that could comment on it.
Oh,
So they kind of imagined this boy band sort of explosion, but they wanted it to feel manufactured.
there you go.
And it was also Albarn's way of using a lot of the ideas that he couldn't use for Blur. Because
Yeah.
it didn't fit.
Yeah. One of the cool things that I just was reminded of is Ike Turner is on well, first off, one of the greatest song names ever. Every Planet We Reach is Dead. I mean, come on. That's like, that could be the next Star Wars. Anyway, just like, it's a great song title. But anyway, Ike Turner's on that, and Ike Turner played piano. He's Ike of Ike and Tina Turner. But he played piano on arguably what's the first rock and roll song ever in the 1950s. It was a track called Rocket 88. And it wasn't his band. He was just the piano player in it. So I don't know. That's just minutia and weirdness. But like, this is an album for 2005 that has the guy that played on the first rock song ever on it. So there.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
And with that, I've cleared the room. Good night, everybody. Drive safely. Tip your waitress.
Well, yeah, I am going to end the call for tonight. So I want to thank you guys for joining me this evening and talking about this and listening to this album. Like I said, I greatly enjoy this album. I really like Gorillaz. I think it's a fascinating thing, and I absolutely think that you should check out on YouTube and just type it in and look at some of their recent stuff as well. It is an interesting concept. I haven't listened to their new album. I'll have to listen to it all the way through.
There you go.
Yeah.
Sounds awesome. Thank you for
thank you
choosing
guys.
it.
Thank you guys for joining me, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Bye.
Bye.